are talking Behind the Trees. This one is directed and co-written by Vikram Jayakumar, and this one stars Vanessa Curry. Now, this tells the story of a couple. The guy is of Indian descent, but he's living in America, and he and his girlfriend decide that they want to go for a holiday in northern India. Now, this is where this guy's from originally. So they kind of go off-season, it's a little quiet, so they go into a very kind of remote resort. The hotel is more or less unoccupied. And they decide one day to go out for a kind of a walk, inevitably get lost. And they happen across what is seemingly an exorcism of this local kind of village who are performing an exorcism on this young girl. And as part of the exorcism, they lock this girl in this hut, kind of like almost like a very small bunker in the middle of a clearing in the sugarcane fields. Now, being an American in the movie, of course they have to interfere and seemingly, quote-unquote, rescue the girl from this imprisonment, take her back to the hotel. And of course, this is a bad move. Supernatural shenanigans occur. What will happen? You will have to watch the movie to find out. So, first of all, let's talk about what works first of all. So, this movie really benefits is from a different locale. This movie obviously being set in northern India. It gives it somewhat of a different flavour to a lot of the horror movies that are sort of shot in either America or England, so to speak. Now, of course, there are horror movies that do, you know, are set and even come out of India, but nonetheless, we don't see that many of them. So it certainly gives it a somewhat of a unique flavour, and it's coupled with the fact that I think the actual photography here is very good. There's some pretty good cinematography. There is some real kind of like creepy shots of these kind of sugar canes that invoke images of the children of the corn. These kind of densely packed areas. And you see something moving around, stuff like that. You don't quite know what it is. It even makes you think of the Jaws, something swimming unseen under the water. You can't quite see what it is, but we know there's something in there. And there's some fantastic shots in the kind of the night here. I didn't think the acting was too bad from the cast. Our American couples are written to be typical kind of dolts, to be honest, but the acting isn't so bad for the majority of the cast here. And the movie does have some great imagery here and there. Like I said, the actual this kind of hut thing in the middle of this clearing, of these sugarcane fields, looks really creepy, especially when it's shot in the night. There's also some great imagery here in regards to these the locals wear kind of masks just on the back of their head to try and kind of scare off tigers. I think there's actually someone looking at them and stuff like that. It's quite a creepy image, to be honest, but though they don't do a hell of a lot with that. So let's talk about what doesn't work. Okay, the first and foremost, this movie does one of the old tropes that I hate. It shows you a scene that happens towards the end of the kind of story chronologically at the beginning of the movie. And I guessed straight away what would happen, and I was absolutely right. So unfortunately, this movie way plays its hand too early. We have a scene with some unrelated characters, but it tells us this is obviously 2 weeks, in the future, essentially. And then we immediately cut to the kind of the main story, which is set 2 weeks behind, first of all. But then I guessed straight away where it was going, and I was bang on the money. So unfortunately, this movie just out and out kind of, it's so obvious what the actual the issue is going to be here. Straight away, within 2 minutes of the movie, I guessed the twist without even seeing our main characters. So there was that. The movie is too slow for its own good, and to be honest with you, they downplay the actual horror side of stuff here. We really don't see enough, I don't think. The girl was played, the possessed girl, seems to be perfectly fine for 95% of the time that she's there, and only very occasionally does she kind of display any type of kind of supernatural presence. And I think maybe the movie is meant to suggest to us, is she really possessed, or is she just, having some type of medical issues that these local people don't understand? And that's actually what the kind of our female protagonist is suggesting, because she's a doctor. But of course, we know that there is going to be supernatural stuff there, because this is a film. If it wasn't, it would just be a pretty non-exercise, wouldn't it? So we're always waiting for the inevitable to happen, and it takes so long to get there, and we do see stuff, I've got to say, it's pretty disappointing. Although I think the acting is fun, I feel our characters are fairly poorly written. Our female protagonist is meant to be a doctor, and therefore you would have to assume that she has some type of reasonable intelligence, but she just acts like a complete idiot. And also the guy just seems to just go along with anything she says and really doesn't have much of a kind of a backbone, to be honest. Unfortunately, the movie is just a bit of a non-event because really not a lot happens, and the one kind of twist that the movie thinks that it has up its sleeve is so clearly signposted. It just doesn't come as a surprise. In actual fact, I think the strongest scenes in the movie are actually the prologue that features a group of Indian sort of teens going and finding this thing initially, who are for some reason speaking English, but anyway, we'll kind of gloss over that. But that would have been a more interesting story, and that had the most kind of the scariest bits in the film. Well, unfortunately, the actual bulk of the film is the lead up to that point, and it just doesn't work. So although I think this movie is not a badly made film, it just isn't particularly interesting, and is clearly not as clever as it thinks it is. So I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10. If you've seen it, what did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.